Here's a tip. Let's say you bet big on a 4-game moneyline parlay. Your first 3 bets have hit, but you're a little nervous about the last game. Consider placing a separate bet against the team you have winning in your parlay. You're technically a winner either way. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
We're going to get a bunch of upsets. We're going to get a lot of craziness. Didn't happen as well. I mean, over the last calendar year, Sam, I don't ever recall 6 or 8 months of time in sports where the books lost, but here we are.
They estimate FanDuel and DraftKings lost $185 million combined for March Madness. So estimating not just that they didn't have a profitable March Madness, but it was a huge loss for them as well.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
The 2 guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of
15.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on Sports.
Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. Lots of NBA action to review with you from last night and go over, of course, tonight's huge schedule in the NBA playoffs. We have 4 games to review. We will do it with Steph Noh of Sporting News. Also, the NFL draft, still talk about who went where, some of the winners, some of the losers. We'll bring in Jacob Camenker of Sporting News for that. And if the National Hockey League is your fix tonight and the Stanley Cup Playoffs are on, well, we have Jo Madden on the show to preview some of those games as well. So stick around. We got a lot to cover here on the show. We'll recap some of the games and, of course, talk some Major League Baseball as well. One team in baseball yesterday put up a huge run-scoring output. We'll tell you who that is in addition. But first, let's start off with this battle in the prediction markets that's going on across the country here. You may have heard us talk about this quite a few times on the show. Prediction markets basically are not sports betting operations. There are some states that feel that they are. And so this company called Kalshi has been asked to exit a lot of the different markets that have legalized sports betting because they are basically being told that they are one. But in New Jersey, a district court judge has ruled that Kalshi can still operate their prediction market business, offering sport event contracts online. Same decision was made in Nevada about a month ago. So right now, with this judge saying that the temporary injunction stays in the New Jersey Division of Gaming Enforcement, can continue to operate as well. Also, the judge also suggested that Robinhood, as a partner of Kalshi, was adversely affected by the DGE's actions when it withdrew from offering the NCAA tournaments contract, a factor that influenced the court's decision. So for now, a win for these prediction market companies in New Jersey and also in Nevada. They haven't, done as well in some other states. Some have been asked to leave. We'll see what continues as the year goes on. Meanwhile, in the NBA playoffs, the Golden State Warriors have taken a commanding lead against the Houston Rockets in the first round of their 7-game series. They win 109-106 to go up big, 3-1 in the series. Fred VanVleet from Houston had a shot to tie the game. He could not do it. Jimmy Butler returned to have 27 points in this one. And needless to say, Draymond Green also getting into it a little bit. Not the first, not the last time that this will happen. He was issued a technical foul, a flagrant 1 foul as well. But Steve Kerr very happy to get Jimmy Butler back and getting one of his younger players to perform as well.
Both guys were amazing. Brandon's big time, second-year player, but plays like a 10th-year guy. I mean, he's just got so much poise and confidence, and he was obviously a key to everything. And then Jimmy getting to the line 12 times. really carried us, especially in that fourth quarter. It was just an incredible performance by our guys against a great team that gave us everything we could handle tonight. So it's a big-time win.
You went with the double big lineup for a large portion tonight. How do you think that fared, and especially compared to the starting lineup, which seemed to have a rough start to both halves?
Yeah, they were great. They kept us in the game. Obviously, the start of the third quarter, 18-1 run, and just gave everything back that we did before in the halftime. And to be up 7 and go down 10 that quickly with some of the missed shots or whatever, nobody tries to miss shots, but the non-help off of certain guys, leaving shooters and then just not rebounding. They beat us in the offensive glass, second chance points. So not a great start there. Double big was the reason we stayed in the game.
Another sweep in the NBA playoffs occurred last night, and honestly, a waste of time it appeared to play this game in Miami. My goodness, the Cavaliers throttled the Miami Heat. The final was 138-83, 55-point win. It's the fourth biggest playoff win in NBA history, and the most since 2009. Donovan Mitchell had 22 points. He really didn't have to play a lot in this one. So the Cavs at this point will await their next team. It looks like it could be the Indiana Pacers, who are up 3-1 in the Milwaukee Bucks. We'll preview that game coming up in a little bit. Donovan Mitchell, after the game, giving credit to the fast start, specifically from his teammate, Jarrett Allen.
This guy right here. We all had the mindset. Max sent a text last night in the group chat, just reminding us. And it really speaks to the collectiveness of the group, what we have. And then when you get out there and he sets the tone with a steal and a dunk, you know what I'm saying? It really, and then he had some words that he said to me that I won't repeat, but that's when I knew we were going to win. That just speaks to where we're all at. And, that's the biggest thing, just the maturity level as a group. But, we handled our business, and this is the toughest game of the series. And, for us, we really set the tone, and that's something to be proud of.
Congratulate Cleveland. They're a hell of a basketball team. They're going to be on probably a long run right now, but they're well coached. They have a group that fits and plays the right way. So we were humbled, but they had so much to do with a lot of how we looked. None of us would have guessed, the series would have gone this way coming out of our two play-ins, and even how we competed in the first two games, but they just took it to another level. Obviously, we didn't play well, and we didn't meet any kind of level from there, but they left us behind these last two games.
No one would have guessed. The Heat, worst record in the history of the NBA to make the playoffs, would have gotten swept against the Cavs. Okay. George Kittle signs a 4-year contract extension, $76 million with $40 million guaranteed. So Brock Purdy will have one of his top weapons back next season. George Kittle is now the NFL's highest paid tight end. Meanwhile, the tenure in the National Hockey League as a head coach rarely goes to 10 years. That's what happened. But Mike Sullivan is out as Pittsburgh Penguins head coach after a decade of coaching the squad. He was the longest tenured coach in Penguins history. The Bruins and Rangers jobs are open. Maybe he'll land one of those jobs. Wyatt Johnson, 9 seconds into the game, scores a goal, and the big one ends up being a 6-2 final as the Stars beat the Colorado Avalanche. Mikko Rantanen, who was with the Avalanche in the playoffs the past 7 seasons, scored his first postseason goal. He also had 2 assists for the Stars as they took a 3-2 lead. Head coach of the Avs, Jared Bednar, clearly a little stunned how things began last night.
Down 3 is not a position this team's been in a while. Were they a bit stunned at times tonight?
Our team?
Yes.
Well, it's easy to fall down 3 when we give up those first 2, right? Like a couple strange goals there for sure. The first one, and then the second one lands on his back and goes in. I thought we were playing okay. We definitely needed to get sharper on the defensive side of it early in the game, but we pushed back and created some good chances at the other end. You go down 3, we're fighting hard, we get it within 1, and then didn't love that penalty call in that game, especially the way the game was going. So then it kind of gets out of reach for us, right?
the Battle of Florida on the ice right now looks like it's going to the defending champion, Florida Panthers. 2 goals in 11 seconds. They rally to beat the Lightning 4-2. They're up 3-1 in the series. They can close it out on Thursday night. Excuse me. All right, the Mets, they clobber, I mean, in such a big way, the Washington Nationals. Folks, they put a 19 spot up yesterday. Brandon Nimmo drove in 9 runs in the game. By the way, the record is 12 in Major League Baseball. Also, the Dodgers and Marlins fought right to the end yesterday. How about that? Dane Myers comes in off the bench. It's a pinch hit grand slam, but the Marlins lose to the Dodgers in the 10th inning. 7-6 was the final in that one. Tyler Soderstrom has been a revelation for the Sacramento A's this season. A 2-run double is enough. The A's beat the Rangers 2-1. J.P. Sears threw 5 1/3, and Mason Miller closed the door. He's been fantastic. Going to be in the All-Star game, I would guess, again, as the Yankees try to come back against the Orioles. It falls short. And the Orioles hold on to win 4-3 final there. Tons of Major League Baseball, of course, action coming your way a little bit later. But coming up next, we're going to be joined by Steph Noh of Sporting News. We'll review some of the finals in the NBA last night and take a look at some of tonight's games as well. Very specifically, we'll jump into how good are the Cleveland Cavaliers after just dismantling the Miami Heat in 4 games? Do they have a legit shot of winning the NBA championship? We'll ask Steph that. Also, the latest on the Rockets and Warriors and a preview of tonight's games in the NBA. Don't go away. Career season for Elly De La Cruz. It happened last year. One of the most popular players in baseball as well. And a lot of guys are stealing bases again, and some of them seem like they may be able to steal more bases than Elly De La Cruz on the Cincinnati Reds. So I will ask you this question, Tom. Buy or sell, De La Cruz will lead the league in steals this season?
Sell. I sell on this. I'm not going to say it's already because he's just a handful behind, but there's another Cruz that could easily lead the league in steals, and that's O'Neal Cruz. But like you said, there are a lot of players stealing. Pete Crow Armstrong, I think, is always a viable option. Victor Scott, we know it can be very good. I think that's where we'll see things end up. The fact that he did so last year and he was the odds-on favorite to lead the league in steals this year, I just don't see it repeating. And frankly, there's going to be a point where maybe the Reds need to protect him. Like, they need him to be healthy. You don't want him potentially risk himself on any further injury if they're going to make a push for the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I think he'll catch fire. I'm going to buy this. And the Reds went for about a week and a half without basically scoring a run. I do think as the weather heats up, he will get on base more. It has been, as I've said, a wintry April in a lot of different locations. And I can't quite figure out why the Reds, especially at home, are not hitting like they have in the past. And I'm just going to put it down as weather and nothing else. So I'm going to say De La Cruz at the end of the year does it. The competition, and Tom brought up a great point. O'Neal Cruz certainly off to a great start too. But I'm going to end up buying this, and I think 85 steals again for Elly De La Cruz, somewhere along those lines. Yeah, why not?
Fantasy Sports Today. Weekends starting at 8 a.m. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. We got Steph Noh from Sporting News to review some of the games in the NBA last night, get his opinion on tonight's as well. Great to have Steph back on the show. I know it's been a bit. Steph, I know you're busy covering the league, and thanks again for making some time for us here. All right, so pretty big waste of time last night, honestly, here where I live in South Florida, Steph, with the Heat and the Cleveland Cavaliers. There was a faction of Heat fans, Steph, by the way, living in South Florida, and of course I'm in the media here, that did not want the Heat to make the playoffs, thinking that they had a better shot going into the lottery. And I know they played a couple competitive games here, but you talk about being outclassed. I guess it was very similar to the way that Oklahoma City played against Memphis in the first round, although I did think Memphis put up a much better fight in the end here. I'd love your opinion on how far Cleveland can legitimately go.
Yeah, obviously it wasn't a great performance from the Heat, but I do think we have to give the Cavs a lot of credit here. They won this series as the biggest point differential, I think, in a four-game series ever. It's like something like 133 points. They won by an average of over 30 points a game. And yeah, to answer your question, I mean, I think the Cavs can definitely make it to the finals. They did not look great against Boston, who they'll probably play in the conference finals. But Boston is not really at full strength. Missing Drew Holiday. Jalen Brown's had knee issues. Jason Tatum has this wrist injury that he's dealing with. So just, yeah, given that the Cavs are already a very, very good team, it looks like they're the team out of all the others that are really clicking in this first round. I think you have to think that they're the favorite to get to the finals out of the East.
Yeah, they've looked great, and albeit a couple of games that were close, they really did a good job against Miami. Meanwhile, I am a little surprised here that the Warriors are able to take this commanding lead against the Rockets. I did think, Steph, that they had a shot to win. I didn't think it'd be this quick. They're up 3-1 now in the series, and getting playoff performances from Jimmy Butler, who missed a game. Now he's back and he's playing well. I mean, how do the Rockets feel at this point, Steph? I mean, they had such a great regular season, and to see it sort of falling apart here has got to be disappointing.
Yeah, the Rockets were not favored in this series, and I think we can all see why. They're kind of missing that primary scoring option. With the game on the line last night, they went to Alperen Şengün, who's probably their best one-on-one scorer, and he just was not able to get a great look with Draymond Green guarding him. Green has been unbelievable defensively in these playoffs. I think he's might be a little bit mad that he didn't win that Defensive Player of the Year award. But yeah, I don't really see the Rockets coming back from this. I mean, Jimmy Butler, this is the worst that he's going to look, and he had 27 points. You could see him laboring a lot. I mean, if you didn't watch the game and you just saw the box score, you wouldn't know it, but he was really struggling to get up and down the court. His health probably is going to get better with that tailbone injury that he has. So I would expect the Warriors to finish this one out in the next couple games.
All right, now let's take a look at tonight's game, Steph. I think this is probably the last time in the NBA season that we're going to have 4 games on in one day. I would have to assume, especially if New York or Boston closes their series out, or even maybe Indiana tonight. So it's a lot of closeout stuff happening. Let's get to it. The first game, man, 6 o'clock start. That's going to be tough for people on the West Coast to catch this, but I guess they don't care. It's the Pacers and the Bucks. Let's be honest. Uh, so Dame Lillard is out. Indiana is up to 8 points. So that's telling me that Lillard's worth at least a couple of points, but maybe Steph is even more than that. Are the Bucks just done? Is this it? I mean, Indiana looks just like farther, even with Damian Lillard, Indiana looks like way better team.
I think Damian Lillard is worth that many points, but more importantly, they're going to have to play other guys who are not very good in his place. I mean, the problem with the Bucks all year has been their depth. They made kind of a desperation trade towards the middle of the season, trying to get Kyle Kuzma. He's done absolutely nothing this season. Brook Lopez, they were counting on him so heavily. He's been played off the court at various times. He's just too slow for the Pacers. It's a bad, bad matchup for him. So yeah, unfortunately, I think that the Bucks just don't have enough to compete with the Pacers, who have the great speed, have the star power, they have the depth. Their role players have been amazing this series, like Andrew Nembhard. He's been, one of the best bench players of the playoffs. So I do not expect the Bucks to mount any sort of comeback in this one.
All right, so Indiana's -8 tonight. Now on the flip side, Steph, boy, the Pistons, I don't think they're going to win this series, but man, they are fighting the Knicks with everything that they have. And if not for Brunson just going bananas in the fourth quarter every game, it could be Detroit up in this series. Knicks are 5.5-point favorites tonight, total 214 on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Can Detroit pull this one out?
I mean, there's a pretty good case that this should be 2-2. I'm sure people know that that call that the refs blew in game 4, Tim Hardaway Jr. was fouled on a 3. So, I mean, if he had made those free throws, the Knicks probably would have lost that game. They would have to go the whole length of the court with like 1.5 seconds left. It's unlikely they would have been able to do that. So I think this series is a lot closer than that 3-1 deficit indicates. Also, Jalen Brunson has just been gutting it out through this right ankle injury. He missed 15 games during the regular season. It didn't look like he was going to come back in some of these games because it was bothering him so much. So you never really know how effective he's going to remain with that. So yeah, I mean, I think that this one is actually a little bit definitely closer than the other series we've talked about.
All right, Boston, 11.5-point favorites tonight against the Orlando Magic. Magic, give them credit. They've hung in some of these games. Can they hang in one tonight, or is this the end for the Magic? We know the Celtics eventually are going to move on here.
Yeah, like I said at the top, the Celtics are dealing with some injuries that I think could allow the Magic an opening, but the Magic just don't have enough ways to score, especially against a really good Celtics defense. Franz Wagner, he made a leap this year, but that hitch in his three-point shot is just making it too easy to guard in. The Magic don't have enough shooting to really keep up with these offensive firepower teams like the Celtics that are just letting it rain from outside.
And finally, Steph, you can tell me who you think is going to win, but we all know this is the coin flip series in the NBA. Clippers, Nuggets. I got no idea. Clippers have a Hall of Famer. Nuggets have a Hall of Famer. And actually, the Clippers have a couple of Hall of Famers now that I think about it, with Harden there too. But look, the reality of this is going 7 games. It's just win, loss, win, loss, win. I don't know. Any clue tonight?
I hope it goes 7 games. I mean, that's really the only thing I'm hoping for in this first round, because this has been such an awesome series. It could go either way. I mean, this really could have been like 4-0 for either team. As far as like predictions, I think the Clippers have an edge here. They have more adjustments they can go to. Chris Dunn has not really been guarded on the offensive side of the ball, so they can go with some more offense units. The Nuggets, on the other hand, they have these same depth problems that I've talked about with some of these other teams, so I just don't think they can overcome that.
All right, Steph. Thanks for coming on. Have a great week.
Thank you.
Is so crazy that you get both ends of that spectrum, and the narrative trying to be correct in doing so and to make a statement for engagement. You're wrong, you've been wrong, and deal with the reality of the situation.
All of the people that analyze the draft mocked one in the first round, and even could he go to the Giants at number 3 or trade up back in that round. They got Dart, they didn't get Sanders, and the fall was on at that point.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to get a bunch of upsets. We're going to get a lot of craziness. Didn't happen as well. I mean, over the last calendar year, Sam, I don't ever recall 6 or 8 months of time in sports where the books lost, but here we are.
They estimate FanDuel and DraftKings lost $185 million combined for March Madness. So estimating not just that they didn't have a profitable March Madness, but it was a huge loss for them as well.
NewsWire, only on SportsGrid.
Second game of doubleheader. We don't know exactly who's going to be in the lineup, and maybe you get an extended game number 1, which means tired bullpens and closers used up, which aren't available for game number 2, and maybe finding some extra shots here. But I do think the pitching matchup more susceptible, Tom, to runs here.
This is part of what we look at. Like I said, I don't expect both teams to win. So we have a pitcher who may not be sustainable at 28.6, but he's playing well right now.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You don't think that there's something to the fact that they blow all these leads against the Edmonton Oilers? It's like the Oilers can be down 4 goals and they come back like it's nothing.
We got a series now. I think this thing is going to reset, Scott. I think home ice advantage is going to hold true in this series. I think I told you that last week. I'm expecting this. I picked the Kings in 7 before the series started, and it's like plus 700.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid, a full NFL draft recap here on the show today. In our little SportsGrid sound-off, we will get Ben Stevens' thoughts on who was the steal of the draft. Also, the Lions GM speaks out. And yeah, so does Jerry Jones. Time now for the SportsGrid sound-off. Well, usually Jerry Jones does put a positive spin on most things that happen with the Dallas Cowboys. Remember, it was a year ago that the Cowboys decided not to sign Derrick Henry and basically left them without a really good running back. Although, Rico Dowdle was okay. But let's be honest, the Cowboys have whiffed on some things. But the NFL draft has come and gone, and certainly the Cowboys, if you look at their grades in the NFL, have been okay. No one says they've been amazing. No one says they did bad. But Jerry Jones, of course, who is predominantly in charge of making a lot of this picks, told the media yesterday he's absolutely giddy with their 2025 selections.
And I looked at the consensus NFL grades on those players, and I looked at our grades on those players. And then I added up our grades on the 6 guys I was looking at. We were 40% lower average pick than the grades, the consensus or our grades. In other words, we had come in and gotten them when we had a 2 on them, and we'd gotten them at 4, or we'd gotten at X. So both ways, we had really, as a group, come in. We gotten them at a much lesser round than we had the grades on. And the grades, that consensus grades, or that, and frankly, we got them in a later round for the grades that we had on them, and we had a lower grade on them than we got them with a higher grade in that round. I still don't know if I said that. But do you help me out?
I got you. Got the gist.
Write it down so I can look at it and see if that's what I'm trying to say.
Great to be a billionaire. That's all I got on that. All right, now let's get to the Detroit Lions. Of course, their draft was really a mix of taking kids from big schools and small schools. The Lions are going to be one of the favorites again to win the Super Bowl this season. Let's hear from Lions general manager Brad Holmes on his review of the kids that they took.
Yeah, I mean, I think the proof's in the pudding in terms of what they have put out, but it's just I get a better feel in terms of just actually witnessing it and seeing it and being there up close for both programs. And just as I've been around the Georgia program, I've been around the Alabama program when Saban was there in terms of just how it's ran and those practices and the regimen, and just kind of have a little bit of insight of what they go through. And it's very much like what they're entering into in the NFL. So, and look, it's not I went to a small school, I went to a small school, and, we may not have had those same resources, or that same type of preparation. But at the end of the day, whether you go to a small school or a program like that, you still have to be a good enough player, and it still is going to come down to that.
Very well said, I think. Speaking of very well said, you can catch Ben Stevens on the early line every single day here on our SportsGrid television network. Ben weighs in on some potential picks that he liked the most. No surprise, it comes from the running back position in this year's 2025 NFL draft. But who was the steal of the draft at that position? Here's Ben.
The 2025 NFL draft featured a very deep running back class. 2 picks that I loved, starting night number 2, even in today number 3 with some value. Let's start early on in the second round. The New England Patriots drafting Travion Henderson out of Ohio State. Henderson has a 20-1 number to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. Might be worth a sprinkle. Here's why. He's a guy that can be out there for all 3 downs for Drake May and the Patriots. He is not only great when the ball is in his hands, running the football between the tackles with some speed, a great receiver out of the backfield, and a great pass blocker as well. And of course, early in round number 4 on day 3, your favorite running back's favorite running back, Cam Scatterbo, making his way to the New York Giants. I think he is going to be a fan favorite instantly for the G-men, who can do a little bit of everything as the ultimate playmaker on the football field. Craig, back to you.
All right, thanks very much, Ben. Notice in his biggest steals of the draft, he did not include Shedeur Sanders. Let's just be honest. The NFL draft for 3 days, Sanders was all the talk. I believe today may be the last time we get into Shedeur Sanders again, but we're going to do it actually twice here on the show. But first, we will do it coming up next with our buddy Jacob Camenker from USA Today. We'll be right back.
knows how to show love to our everyday heroes. So if you're a first responder, you are in for some perks. Lots of hotels and casino offer big discounts to any first responders who can show valid work or volunteer ID. So treat yourself to a discounted stay. You deserve it. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Second game of doubleheader. We don't know exactly who's going to be in the lineup, and maybe you get an extended game number 1, which means tired bullpens and closers used up, which aren't available for game number 2, and maybe finding some extra shots here. But I do think the pitching matchup more susceptible, Tom, to runs here.
This is part of what we look at. Like I said, I don't expect both teams to win. So we have a pitcher who may not be sustainable at 28.6, but he's playing well right now.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
If you're going to trade Durant, right, it means things are getting weird anyway. Teams are going to, before they go for Durant, they're going to go for Devin Booker. That's just the reality of it.
You get rid of Durant, or do you do the crazy one? Because you're so far out of the West, do you get rid of Booker? Because D-Book will bring you far more in a return.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple 15.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, we're taking a breath from the NFL draft. I wonder if Jacob Camenker is wiped out or is ready for these off-season activities already. Let's bring him in from USA Today. Jacob, great to have you here. And I know that a lot of us were locked in for the majority of this draft. And I don't know, was it for the right reasons or the wrong reasons? I'm not sure, because it just seemed to me, and I don't know if you felt the same way, that as we were following, we just were kind of waiting to see the whole entire time when Shedeur Sanders, quarterback from Colorado, was going to get taken. And it felt like nothing else really mattered. Yes, there were picks made in between the first pick in the draft and when he was picked in the 5th round, but it was constantly waiting. Did that create a good draft experience for us or a bad one? What's your opinion?
I would say it's probably a bad one in terms of we were so hyper-focused on Shedeur Sanders, right? So he's obviously a talented player. It was a draft slide like we haven't really seen before, where we're talking about a quarterback who could potentially have been a late first-round pick. Many thought would be an early day 2 pick, and he went all the way in round 5. So, it's surprising from that perspective. But after a certain point, you heard everyone's opinion on Shedeur Sanders, why he's falling, when will he go. And that just dominating the first 150-plus picks was just a little bit too much. And I think people after a certain point were kind of like, just let's get him picked so we can break down his fit and then move on. But I think from that perspective, obviously, I feel bad for Shedeur expecting that he was going to go earlier and having to wait so long. And then with the prank calls and stuff added in, that certainly wasn't helpful either. But in terms of a draft experience, it was a wild story, but it just dominated the whole weekend a little bit too much, right?
Yeah, no, I think so too. I think that's a fair assessment. And as far as the Browns are concerned, let's sort of play this out in our minds here a little bit. Joe Flacco is going to start for the Browns. They're not going to win a lot of games next season. They're in a rebuild. Flacco should not be starting on any NFL team. I'm sorry. It's just in my opinion. So it's only a matter of time till they go to the backup. And I assume that will be Kenny Pickett. He'll get a shot. If I had to guess, Jacob, what would I set that number at? 5.5 games? 4.5 games? I don't know. It's going to be quick. It's going to be a month or two. And then after Kenny Pickett plays, the question is, when will they, when will it be loud enough to play Shedeur Sanders? I personally don't think Dylan Gabriel's going to make the team. I just don't think so. So when does that happen? Is it week 16? Is it week 15? I mean, this is, unfortunately for Cleveland, they did not want a controversial situation. They may not get one in September and October, but once we get right around Thanksgiving, that's all we're going to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. This seems like a unideal situation for Cleveland. And like you, I really did not understand the Dylan Gabriel pick, double dipping at quarterback. But when they took Dylan Gabriel in the third round, I was very surprised because I thought he was going to go more mid to late day three. It sort of reminded me of when the Browns a handful of years ago. This I might be dating myself. This might be longer ago, but they took Cody Kessler in the third round. I think one time and everyone was kind of like, what are they doing that for? He's like at best a backup. He's not going to be a starter. So the Dylan Gabriel pick pairing it with Shadur Sanders felt weird, especially since Gabriel went first. But I agree with you. I think Flacco will probably start the season because he's the veteran. But if he struggles with turnovers, he's going to get benched. They're going to give Kenny Pickett his shot. And I think sort of halfway through the season, the Browns will look at what they have, whether it's Gabriel and Sanders or it's just Sanders back there, and say, hey, we got to just toss this guy out here and see if he can do the job. See if either of these guys, because I assume if they have to cut one of them, one will end up on the practice squad. They'll probably give those two guys a chance to play. And if either of them flashes, maybe they don't take a quarterback. But by virtue of their trade down with the Jaguars, they now have two 2026 first-round picks. So they're kind of positioned to land a high-end quarterback. So this is going to be a messy year for them at that position, but it might set them up for a good future if they happen to strike gold with Sanders, or if things don't work out, they'll be picking high and be able to get a quarterback next year.
Yeah, no, I would agree. That's a great point, by the way, about the practice squad. I didn't even think about that. Like based on the picks, you would say, okay, well, Gabriel will be the 3, and then Sanders will be on the practice squad. But you and I both know that no matter where Sanders was drafted, there's going to be some desperate team that's going to start the season poorly. That's going to go, all right, let's bail out. Let's take Sanders and put him on our team. They almost can't put Sanders on the practice squad, I don't think. So I don't know what Cleveland was thinking here. I agree with you. This was not the best landing spot, I didn't think, for him. All right, so over at USA Today, I know you were breaking down the drafts. Who do you think had the best ones?
Yeah, so I'll give you a handful of teams here. I think the Patriots did a really good job in terms of adding talent around Drake May. They have good blocking in front of him with Will Campbell. Travion Henderson and Kyle Williams add some much-needed weapons there, so I like that a lot. I think the Falcons did a great job. Jalen Walker fell in their lap in the first round, and they really liked James Pierce Jr., and they managed to trade up for him. Now, all of a sudden, they have two high-end pass rushing prospects. They haven't had a good pass rusher since Jonathan Abraham, so does this finally change things for them? I think it might. I like the Steelers too. They were tied to Shadur Sanders a lot, so I think that people kind of looked at their draft and were a little unimpressed in terms of what they did, but they added a lot of talent to that defensive line. Derek Harmon and Jack Sawyer both going to have pretty good futures there, and I liked Will Howard as a 6th round pick. I think he's got a high-end backup skill set, so if you're looking for someone to develop potentially behind Aaron Rodgers, I think that's a really good landing spot for him, and the Steelers should be better at that position, again, provided that they land Rodgers. And then the Ravens, I mean, they always do a good job of landing guys. They landed 2 first-round talents in Malachi Starks and Mike Green in the first 2 rounds. So just props to them for always seeming to have guys fall to them. But I think those 4 teams did such a good job of just improving their overall team and construction and adding talent, really bolstering their chances of making playoff runs, maybe not in the case of New England, but the other 3 definitely.
Sure. The 49ers are a little strange, I think, going into the year. It felt like to me, Jacob, that they drafted players maybe for like 2 years from now. They haven't extended Purdy, but they did extend Kittle. They traded Deebo Samuel. They traded away Mason, a potential running back of the future, keeping McCaffrey. I mean, I'm getting like constant mixed messages here. It feels like on paper they're like an 8-win team, but maybe they should be a 4-win team, or should they be a 14-win team? I don't know, man. I'm confused with them.
Yeah, there's a wide range of outcomes for them, right? And you look at the draft that they had, I thought that their goal was going to be to address the trenches on both sides of the ball, just knowing their general draft strategy and their needs. They had a big need at defensive tackle. They drafted Michael Williams, they drafted Alfred Collins to kind of fill those 2 needs on the defensive line. But what struck me as odd is they didn't use a pick on the offensive line until the very end of the 7th round when they took a guard from Iowa. I believe it's Connor Colby. I thought that they were going to go for an earlier round tackle or a high-end guard because they lost Aaron Banks during the offseason, and Trent Williams isn't getting any younger, right? Like, we don't know how – like, he's been great, but we just don't know how much longer he's going to play. So I thought it would have behooved the 49ers to maybe invest a little more in that offensive line and just say, hey, we're going to extend Purdy, and obviously they had plans to extend Kittle too. So we're going to have some weapons around him, but we need to make sure his protection is shored up in a cheap manner. And I don't think they did a great job of doing that. So now I'm a little bit worried that if Trent Williams, as he gets older, has any health concerns, then things might fall apart in terms of protection in front of Purdy, which could then hurt the overall impact of this offense. But I agree with you. I think you look at what this team has done and you're saying, what have you done to improve for this season? And I think between the trades and between the draft picks that they've made, where like Michael Williams, high-end talent, but needs a lot of time to develop, I think that could get a little concerning for them in terms of how they'll perform this season.
Jacob, all right. So I'm gonna let's make our next bet here before we let you go here. Today is Tuesday, April the 29th. I'm gonna bring Frank, my producer, here. And when is the next time we're gonna have Jacob on the show? When do we think that is? Is it a month? Is it Aaron Rodgers? Okay, because other than that, Jacob, I feel like we may be saying goodbye for a bit here because now the NFL finally slows down for like a month, and then all of a sudden training camp starts again. But thanks so much for coming on the show. I don't know. You have a prediction? When will it be? 2 weeks? A month? 3 weeks?
I think Rodgers is going to sign within the next 2 weeks. I don't have any real basis for that, but the Steelers seem confident that they're going to get him. So we'll see. Maybe I'll be back at some point soon.
All right, Jacob. I know for NFL season, we'll see you. Thanks again for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
No problem, Craig. Take care.
All right. The NFL on their tracker says we are 35% into the NFL offseason. We'll be back talking hockey next.
Vegas knows how to show love to our everyday heroes. So if you're a first responder, you are in for some perks. Lots of hotels and casino offer big discounts to any first responders who can show valid work or volunteer ID. So treat yourself to a discounted stay. You deserve it. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Second game of doubleheader. We don't know exactly who's going to be in the lineup, and maybe you get an extended game number one, which means tired bullpens and closers used up, which aren't available for game number two, and maybe finding some extra shots here. But I do think the pitching matchup more susceptible, Tom, to runs here.
This is part of what we look at. Like I said, I don't expect both teams to win. So we have a pitcher who may not be sustainable at 28.6, but he's playing well right now.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
If you're going to trade Durant, right, it means things are getting weird anyway. Teams are going to, before they go for Durant, they're going to go for Devin Booker. That's just the reality of it.
You get rid of Durant, or do you do the crazy one? Because you're so far out of the West, you get rid of Booker because D-Book will bring you far more in a return.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of 18.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Great to have Jo Madden back in the house. She's been covering hockey for us, of course, for a long time, and also all over the SportsGrid network, TV and radio. Going to give us some picks tonight. Done a very good job thus far with her opinions. Jo, great to have you back here on NewsWire. Real quick, before we get to the games and recapping and moving forward a little bit, did this come as a surprise to see that Mike Sullivan was fired as head coach of the Penguins? I mean, 10 years in sports, just generally speaking, to manage or coach anything is a really long time. And he made the playoffs a lot, took them to the Stanley Cup as well. Did it catch you by surprise, or did you think it was just time for a change?
It absolutely did catch me by surprise, but it's not going to be long before he is picked up. 409 wins for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And I do think he's one of the best coaches out there in the whole league. So it's definitely going to be a major rebuild for the Pittsburgh Penguins. You got to wonder who they're going to be after there. But this team, this franchise is going to go through some growing pains for sure with new coaching. Sullivan was just so strong for them. And I do think teams like the Rangers, teams like the Boston Bruins will be after him. I'm not sure if the Bruins will be able to afford him because they just hold that wallet a little tighter, but the Rangers definitely a possibility for him.
So let's real quick go to last night's game here, because I think that the majority of the hockey fans were watching this one unfold between Florida and Tampa Bay. Now, I know it's a regional game, of course, between these two teams, but social media was buzzing with this game last night. And by the way, with the Florida Panthers again, the defending champions, some people thought they would get knocked off by Tampa Bay or maybe in a further round. But, honestly, right now, Joe, I mean, they're playing as good as anybody. I mean, the atmosphere there is just absolutely incredible. And I would guess that after the series is over, and I do think the Panthers are going to win, they're up in the series, I think that they're going to be the favorites again to win the East.
And they definitely should be. You look at the Florida Panthers and they just turn it up to another level when they're in the playoffs. And adding Brad Marchand to this team, he's been impactful out there on the ice. And we all love what Matthew Tkachuk is able to do. Barkov, they've got so many playmakers out there. Both of the Sam Reinhart, the Sam Bennetts, they've got the depth that they need to make another run for the Stanley Cup. And against Tampa Bay here, it's a hard series. It's a physical series. So they're going to have to finish this one off quickly here. That win last night, it was a hard one for them to get. They had to get a couple goals in that third period to take that 4-2 win, with Tampa actually leading this going into that third period. They had that 2-1 lead and Florida able to answer back, get that 4-2 lead. So it was good to see for the Florida Panthers and their fans. And I do think they have every ability to continue all the way to the Cup again.
Yeah, definitely so. And up 3-1 in that series. All right. So now the Maple Leafs and Ottawa Senators, this has certainly been a surprise how Toronto is in this spot. I mean, Joe, the Leafs fans have been waiting a long time to just win a series, to get far. And it looks like they have a shot here. I'm not going to ever discount Ottawa, of course, but the Maple Leafs are pretty big favorites, minus 182 on the money line, total of 5.5. Is this a danger zone for the Leafs given their track record in the playoffs recently, or are they finally going to get this done?
It most definitely is a danger spot here for the Toronto Maple Leafs with all the pressure on them. Their fans already getting nervous after they weren't able to close it out in that last game, with the Ottawa Senators getting the win in overtime. Now Ottawa going into Toronto, you've got to think Stolarz will have a better game than he did in that last one. But if he doesn't, I do think we're going to see the Ottawa Senators, play that loose game, play free hockey, because they're just trying to stay in the playoffs, keep their playoff hopes alive. So I think Stolarz will be peppered in this one by Brady Tkachuk, Jake Sanderson, Drake Batherson, and we can see the Ottawa Senators win or lose, go over 2.5 goals. We're going to have to lay a little bit of juice at minus 112 in that situation. But Toronto's a team with all the pressure, even though it is Ottawa with their backs up against the wall. Everyone's saying, can Toronto finally get it done in a series to close it out here? And the doubt has come from the fans already. You've heard them after that loss. So I think Toronto's in a scary spot tonight.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, so not the same for the Carolina Hurricanes. They're going to advance against the Devils. We know it's coming. I mean, they're minus 275 at this next game here, game 5 here, Joe. And I know it's just a matter of time. Puck line here, minus 1.5 plus 104. I mean, I guess, that's a possibility here, although the games have been pretty much tight throughout. But I just don't feel like the Devils are in a spot to win the series.
I don't think the Devils are either, and I do think their playoff hopes end tonight. Now it just becomes a way of betting this game that you're going to get any value. Now we're still unsure if Frederik Andersen will be between the pipes and Krochekov coming in here. I actually think he's the stronger goaltender of the two. Frederik Andersen has had those issues in the playoffs, and while he's looked sound, I really do trust Krochekov here to limit the Devils. And you look at the Devils, their defensive core has taken those injuries. We know Jack Hughes didn't make the postseason either. And I do think this is a talented team that we will see next year really be able to come out a lot stronger with Jacob Markstrom between the pipes. But tonight here, I think got to be a play on Carolina, laying the puck line here, or even the alt puck line. I think we could see 2 empty netters at the end of this game. So alt puck line laying 2.5 at plus 200. But I won't count out Timo Meier for his anytime goal here for the New Jersey Devils. And then I do think you can stack that top line all for a point for the Carolina Hurricanes with Sheznikov, Aho, and Jackson Blake coming in at plus 209 for all three to register a point tonight.
All right, great stuff, Joe. Final game we'll review here. It's a tight series, but Vegas basically unbeatable at home, so they're minus 235 tonight to make this a 3-2 lead in the series. But then they're going to go back to Minnesota, and I think Minnesota probably wins that game as well. Joe, total of 5.5. Is it just that simple?
No, it really isn't. I do think you look here at the Minnesota Wild plus the 1.5 on that puck line tonight. They have every opportunity of even winning this game here in Vegas. They've been playing fantastic hockey, and I know Vegas won the last game in overtime, but that was a tight one. A look for the Minnesota Wild at least to come out in the first period and win that money line. This could be a coin flip either way, but at the price that you have to pay for Vegas, just not worth looking at them on the money line. And I do think it's a 1-goal game. So give me the Minnesota Wild plus the 1.5.
All right, final game tonight. Late game, Edmonton, LA. Edmonton storming back in this series. Total 6.5 tonight.
It's got to be the Kings in this one. I trust the Kings back there on their home ice to reestablish that dominance out there. They've taken leads and then allowed Edmonton back in these games. So if you want to look at first period, look at the Kings in the first period, but I expect them to close this one out. Cover that puck line tonight. I'll lay the 1.5 on the puck line at plus 164. Big win for the Kings at home.
All right, Joe, great stuff as always. Flawless predictions as usual. Thanks again for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll be right back to wrap it up.
Vegas knows how to show love to our everyday heroes. So if you're a first responder, you are in for some perks. Lots of hotels and casino offer big discounts to any first responders who can show valid work or volunteer ID. So treat yourself to a discounted stay. You deserve it. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Second game of doubleheader. We don't know exactly who's going to be in the lineup, and maybe you get an extended game number 1, which means tired bullpens and closers used up, which aren't available for game number 2, and maybe finding some extra shots here. But I do think the pitching matchup more susceptible, Tom, to runs here.
This is part of what we look at. Like I said, I don't expect both teams to win. So we have a pitcher who may not be sustainable at 28.6, but he's playing well right now.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
If you're going to trade Durant, right, it means things are getting weird anyway. Teams are going to, before they go for Durant, they're going to go for Devin Booker. That's just the reality of it.
You get rid of Durant, or do you do the crazy one? Because you're so far out of the West, you get rid of Booker because D-Book will bring you far more in a return.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
Rearranging that roof. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple of 15.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Could have some new baseball news coming, potentially surrounding the Hall of Fame. Jose Altuve wants to take a step back in the lineup. And yeah, another story on Shedeur Sanders, maybe our last one of NFL draft season. It's time now for some last licks. Okay, an updated development on Pete Rose, who, of course, passed away before his chance to get back into Major League Baseball and to get the opportunity to be voted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame. The Commissioner of Baseball, Rob Manfred, said that he has discussed Pete Rose with President Donald Trump at a meeting 2 weeks ago, and he's going to rule on a request to end his permanent ban of the career hits leader. The current president of the United States, Donald Trump, says that he is open to a pardon of Pete Rose. Now, what exactly that means, we're not entirely sure, but we could actually have the possibility of Rose, who's waited so long for his opportunity to get back into baseball and obviously to get, into the Hall of Fame. And now it seems like there's a realistic chance of making that happen. Now, obviously, Rose has passed away, so this would be posthumous. Needless to say, what would still have to happen is at some point, Rose would still have to be voted in by a subcommittee. I mean, remember, it's been a long time since he's played Major League Baseball and couldn't even go through that process anymore. So first he would have to be eligible, and then the tackling him actually getting in the Hall of Fame would have to come through a veterans committee of some kind. But definitely something to keep an eye on. And the eligibility, I believe, would come as soon as 2026. So keep an eye on the story to see if this actually happens. The only shame of this whole thing is that if they do decide to put Pete Rose into the Hall of Fame, that it would have to happen after he passed away, which clearly is a huge bummer. Okay, Jose Altuve, who, no matter what Frank says, is headed to the Hall of Fame. Speaking of which, I know he's not a huge fan with the whole, cheating stuff and all that, but bottom line is Jose Altuve, one of the great players of the last 10, 15 years at his position of second base. Now, for those who are not familiar, Altuve is now playing left field this season for the Astros. And in a very rare situation, you have a player who is basically let off for the majority of his career asking to not do so. Altuve basically saying that he needs more time to prepare every single day to play the outfield position and is asked to be moved out of the leadoff spot in the lineup. Now, certainly he has earned that through the years, and any time that a player like this with more than 10 years in baseball playing on the same team, and by the way, playing with this, manager is going to be asked, hey, look, do you want to move out or not? Altuve is doing it sort of preemptively here. Now, I don't know that this will make a difference in his batting average, home runs, runs driven in, on-base percentage, OPS slugging, and all that. I don't know. But it is sort of interesting to see a player with his stature who has basically, as you would say, outlived all of the players that played with him on those World Series teams. Alex Bregman has left, you know that. Carlos Correa is long gone. Kyle Tucker. I mean, basically everybody's gone except for some of the pitchers on that team from those World Series runs. We'll see if this means anything for Altuve in the future. All right. So finally, as many of you know by now, Shedeur Sanders, quarterback, formerly of the Colorado Buffaloes, now of the Cleveland Browns, has some other opportunities. Yes, he is a aspiring rap star. And there may be one other thing that he could be aspiring to do. We'll see. The Toronto Argonauts have decided to make him available to the league. So there is certainly an open opportunity and an open chance that if Sanders decides not to play in the NFL, that he could go play in the CFL for the Argonauts in the future. Now, I think we're a long ways away from that happening because remember, in the old days of football, if you didn't make the NFL, you went to go earn a paycheck in the CFL. Shedeur Sanders made a lot of money playing college football through the NIL system. I don't think there's any chance of this happening. But nice little clickable item, nice little headline-grabbing item for the Toronto Argonauts. I don't know, Frank. What percentage would you put on Sanders playing a game in Toronto in the CFL ever would be? I would put that at less than 10%. I mean, remember, Tim Tebow had those opportunities too for many years, chose to not do that. Okay, that'll do it for the show today. Thanks again to all of our guests. Thanks to Steph Noh from Sporting News, Jacob Camenker from USA Today, and Jo Madden from our very own SportsGrid network. Coming up next, we got Smiley Kaufman talking golf at 12. That is followed by Pharrell Coast to Coast with a preview of, yes, all 4 games tonight in the NBA. Game time decisions will follow. Live action tonight in the league, followed by in-game live game day, and then Sports Rage tonight as Gabe reacts to all of the games in the NBA and also, of course, the National Hockey League. Thanks to our director, Luke, and for my producer, Frank, I'm Craig Mish. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day and night here on SportsGrid. We'll see you back for our next edition of the show tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern. Have a great day.